Welcome to the Hogs Die. I'm running off high octane fuel and Raider tears tonight. Let's talk about how the Redskins socked Oakland in the mouth on Sunday with a commanding win at home at FedEx Field. Don't go away.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of good news, obviously, to talk about this week. I'm feeling good, as you probably could tell from my intro. How are you guys feeling after this commanding win this week?
I feel great, man. I mean, how can you not love it? We dominated on all sides, except for maybe special teams, but, offense and defense just dominated.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably one of the biggest statement wins we've had in primetime in a long, long time.
Oh, yeah. And I'm not just drowning in Raider tears. I intravenously injected myself with Raider tears and have been existing on the high that those tears have given me.
Steve went Barney Gumble style, ran up to the stage and said, "Just hook into my veins."
Something like that.
Oh man! Oh well, I guess it's my turn. But
How you feeling?
I'm good. I think Steve's actually said it, and Alex too. It was like it's a statement game. Because more so the fact that we didn't know what to expect out of them, but they definitely showed us that a lot of things are real about them, and we need to stop as fan base. We need to stop distrusting what they're capable of. So
I think you're making a very fair point. I certainly feel stupid this week after predicting all of these to be losses. This was a very nice win to have. So what do you guys want to talk about first? Should we talk about the Oakland offensive line that we made look like a bunch of goobers, or should we talk about the Oakland defense that we made look like a bunch of goobers?
No, we need to start with our offense.
Yeah.
All right.
And I would also, by the way,
offense beating up on their defense a little
before we get started, I'd just like to point out that I was right.
Steve gets to say he was right this week.
Yeah. I am always right. At least this 1 week I am.
Nice. Congratulations.
Okay.
I usually am not.
Yeah, no, I thought we ought to start with the Washington offense because, number one, first and foremost, Kirk Cousins. What a day. He rebounded tremendously. He was 25 of 30 for 365 yards, three touchdowns, quarterback rating of 150.7. For those of you who don't know, 158 is perfect. Don't ask how they come up with that, but 158, so he's almost perfect is the point. Samaje Perine had a bunch of carries, but not a lot of yards, 19 for 49 or 2.6 yards per carry. Chris Thompson, on the other hand, had a whole bunch of yards. He only had 8 carries for 38 yards for 4.8 yards per carry. Mac Brown got in the action, 6 carries, 27 yards. Now, Chris Thompson, receiving-wise, hold on.
Wow. Yeah. He
Six
put up some yak is what we call that.
6 receptions, 150 yards, including that one long of 74 yards. It's oddly enough to not go for a touchdown. Vernon Davis, the ageless wonder, 5 for 58. Josh Jackson, 1 for 52. Congratulations, Josh Jackson, on your first NFL touchdown.
Yeah.
Love that.
Big play.
Physical play.
It goes on and on. Jameson Crowder, 6 for 52. Ryan Grant, 3 for 31. We finally get down to Terrell Pryor, Mr. I'm going to tear up the Raiders, 2 for 19.
Yeah.
So that's offense.
Well, he had as many catches as the Raiders receivers. So
I was going to say, we made him look like a Raider receiver. He really did.
Also as many catches as the secondary, but we'll get into our defense later.
Yeah. Safe to say from those stats, Steve, that the Redskins utilized a lot of tools this week?
It's safe to say, but it's driven in this offense. I think is driven by two things. Is Kirk Cousins on?
Yeah.
Is he passing the ball well, seeing the field well, and how well is the tight end doing?
Sure.
To me, and Chris Thompson was a luxury, but and usually when the tight end, Reed or Davis is really rolling and Kirk Cousins is on, that's when good things happen, and that kind of opens up the running game, and that's what happened against the Raiders.
I think there's one more thing I would put in that list of the things that need to be going right for us, and that's the line has to be getting out and blocking. Not just blocking, Kirk on, like pass blocking, but like getting out on the edges, hitting guys downfield, so you're picking up extra yards if you're Chris Thompson or Crowder or whoever has the ball. I mean, all our big plays, you had Brandon Scherf or Trent Williams or somebody out there laying wood on some secondary guy, you know?
Gotta post a pic. We gotta post a picture of that. Spencer Long sprinting beside Chris Thompson, 20 yards down. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jamal.
No, I was just gonna say my issue with all that. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that. I wouldn't want to do that. But my issue with that thing, I don't know. It might come off that way. I'm just prefacing what. Damn it, I can't even say the word. Thank you. I struggle with some words. But anyway, I just think my thing is with them, like, I don't want them to become too predictable. I hope they have a setup out of these formations, these certain looks that they give defenses, because of the simple fact that when you run a lot of these screens, they become predictable. Like, if you have Chris Thompson out there out wide, more than likely they're gonna start keying Chris Thompson. Like, he was on national television cooking the Raiders defense. And then when you have Jamison Crowder, who's 2 weeks in a row run wide receiver screens, jailbreak screens, out there like that too, it's starting to it's looks that people will start looking at and be like, okay, well, we're going to predict this to start happening, and they're going to start looking at that. So I'm just saying, I hope they have a setup out of those formation looks, out of those personnel looks, where they can just counter the looks that they already given them in past games. So that's all I'm saying. I hope they're just not predictable.
Well, and I'll piggyback on that. I agree with what you're saying, and I think the other thing that's fairly predictable when you look at what they do is the little Chris Thompson flare out to the sidelines in the flats.
Yeah.
When he kind of leaks out, and then Cousins dumps it off to him. I think that is very predictable too. And when you have a guy who rings up 180 yards of receiving, well, the next team you play probably isn't going to let that happen. So you got to figure they're going to maybe spy, Chris Thompson, when he's in the game. And so I suspect that the Redskins will probably have to find not another option, because they'd be fools not to use him, but they need to find kind of a second option to go to.
Yeah. Did you see Chris Cooley's breakdown of the Thompson touchdown, the passing touchdown he caught early?
I did not.
It was a really good kind of like draw up of, what is that pass play? And, it was that kind of route you're talking about where Thompson kind of just goes out to the, flat and catches a ball and can run it up for 10 or more yards. The key to it that he was kind of drawing up was there's still two more very easy reads for Kirk to make if that is not there in Thompson. The tight end is, supposedly trying to draw coverage off Thompson. So if they're going to Thompson, that means the tight end's going to be open. If somehow they cover both, then there's another guy who's kind of like doing a kind of like almost a fade route, but not quite because you're 30 yards out, towards the corner of the end zone. So
this is about what I was saying. Like, if Kirk Cousins is on and offensive line is on both, he has time to look at those secondary and tertiary options. Whereas if he's having a bad day, he's probably going to throw it away over the head of the running back.
Sure. And I appreciate that you use tertiary instead of third option.
She's getting all fancy over
It's
here.
intellectual day today.
We was just talking about school before the show started. So I guess he's feeling scholarly.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So I was listening to some Raiders fans just because I am a mean person and I like enjoying other people suffering.
Was there this kind of talking going on right now?
Were you actually listening to him, or are you reading about him?
I was listening to him on YouTube because that's where you see the face of the despair. It's the most entertaining.
You were licking their tears.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. So basically, what a couple of them were saying was that they were kind of acknowledging they were getting got on a lot of these shorter passes and underneath routes, and the Raiders were playing kind of off coverage, which was giving us those opportunities. I guess what I would ask you guys more specifically is how exactly we got away with this so much, and whether or not that is more an extension of them giving us those opportunities and giving us that space. Is this going to fly, in other words, next week again?
Well, I mean, Chris Collinsworth had a good point on the Thompson touchdown. He pointed out how two of the linebackers, both of them blitz, and one of them was supposed to jump back in coverage, and one of them didn't. So they didn't really get got; they just blew it more than anything.
Yeah. So I mean, that's probably just fans, finding excuses through things. It wasn't always just underneath. They was just letting things go underneath because we were also taking shots in the intermediate game, and we took one deep shot that was connected. And I think we talked about this before the season started. If this offense changes without Pierre and Deshaun, you're gonna have to hit on those few deep routes that you throw.
Right.
And they went 1 for 1 today. Today.
Yesterday.
They went 1 for 1 yesterday, and
Yeah.
it was for a touchdown. So,
Yeah.
Well, and really and truly, the Vernon Davis touchdown was a mid-level throw downfield. I'm always talking on the show about Kirk Cousins needs to go downfield, and what I mean by that is, we need to have, like Jamal said, a certain number, 2, 3, 4, 5 passes a game where the point isn't a 6-yard throw and let's go for yak. It's downfield in the intermediate 15 to 20 yards, range down the middle of the field or on the sidelines, deep route. We need to do that to open up the offense. And, when Kirk hits those, it's going to be a good day. When he blows it, it's not.
Well, I think this offense is always going to be built a lot on take what they're giving you. If they are playing soft like they were, take those Thompson throws all day because he can. You never know which one he's going to break out for 50 yards like we saw. Eventually, like you guys are saying, they're going to start moving up and trying to cover Chris Thompson, probably trying to cover Crowder because we all know Crowder kind of works best in those short dump routes that become something more. When they do that, then someone does have to get open. I don't know who that's going to be. I'm still hoping that Josh Doctson, what we saw was not just a one-hit wonder, that he starts doing that 2-3 times a game.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
That play?
Absolutely.
Holy cow. I mean, he ran a fly pattern straight down the sidelines, and he didn't just burn the corner.
No.
Which was David
Amerson.
Amerson. It was our friend David Amerson. Amerson stuck with him because Josh is fast, but he's not overly fast by NFL, wide receiver standards.
He's a normal NFL speed, I'd say.
Yeah, but dude, his leaping ability, unbelievable vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah, really showed it on that play. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I've kind of been saying it for a while when I've been ripping Pryor that Doctson is a natural receiver. He watch him before before even the ball's really in the air. He's already turning back looking for it. He's turning back and looking for it 30 yards before he catches the ball. Because that's what you have to do. You have to be tracking that ball the entire time as a receiver. And that's why he was able to stay in position and make a play on the ball. And,
well, can I correct you for a minute?
What?
You don't track the ball the entire time, okay?
Well,
a lot of these routes are timing routes. Not necessarily a fly pattern, but a lot of these routes are timing routes, and so you're counting in your head, and at a certain point you make the break, then you turn and look for the ball, or look for the ball right before you break. So he's not looking the entire time. He knows when to look.
Okay,
ideally.
well, he was looking around the 30-yard line versus, looking at, right when the ball would have hit him.
Where he caught it.
Yeah. And, that's how you make adjustments.
He had that awareness.
Yeah, he's the only one we have who I would trust to make that deep pass catch.
I continue to say, you got to give Terrell Pryor time. This guy had over 1,000 yards last year. He's not some chump. It's just taking him a lot of time to get ingrained in an offense. I continue to believe that the guy is good enough to where at some point it's going to click for him, and he's going to have a day where he's got seven catches for 100 yards. It's going to happen.
How about next week? That would be nice.
No.
We'll talk about that on the next episode.
The thing is with Pryor, and I'm like Steve, I'm with you. We was talking about this for I think last week too, but I think the 1,000 yards argument. He also had like 150, 155, 160 targets last year. So they definitely force fed him. His
catch percentage was 55%.
Yeah. So but that's all besides the point. I was just gonna say like they did force feed him out there, but to this point it's definitely a slow process with Pryor. But what we needed to see from yesterday is that you need to see Kirk Cousins trust Josh Doctson because he definitely did not think about throwing him the ball the last 2 games prior to the Oakland Raiders game. He didn't think about it. There was plays probably designed for him, or maybe where he was open and looking at the film for the Rams game, he had opportunities to throw the ball to Doctson.
Yeah.
But it's just all about
3
trust.
targets now, Doctson.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, I watched every play back in the Tampa game, the first game.
Yeah.
Eagles game, and there weren't, he had his touches, or he had his plays, but he didn't really have a lot of plays that were designed for him.
Right.
He ran a lot of clearing routes, and he wasn't open, and it was definitely progress yesterday.
So yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like the fact that you give him that 50-50 ball to let him use his natural abilities, and he's a leaper. He has that explosion. You have to give him that opportunity, and he came through for you. So I mean, hopefully it should. I don't know. I mean, we don't know Kirk Cousins. He's sometimes a weird guy, but that should definitely boost your confidence level in Josh Doctson. So
yeah, he did an interview today where he said he doesn't love throwing a ball like that because he by his
he don't like taking
Dockson's
chances.
Covered.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was going to read to you guys his post-game comments because, the Redskins send this transcript out to us. Might as well make use of it.
Sure.
So he's talking about this, and what stuck out in me, he says, I looked back over to Josh, and Ryan Anderson was getting deep as well, but I do like Josh's ball skills and his ability to catch the ball up in the air, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give him a chance. They've been asking me to give him a chance, and let's give it to him. What that means to me is that, no, he hasn't been comfortable with Josh Doctson.
Yeah.
The coaching staff's obviously saying, look, dude, this guy's a first-round draft pick. You got to give him a chance. And I think to date, it sounds like from that quote that Cousins just wasn't on the same page with him, wasn't comfortable, which isn't surprising because he's been hurt for God knows how long. Maybe this one catch will give Kirk Cousins more confidence in him to try those deep strikes again.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirk spent a lot of the offseason working with Pryor, right? We always heard stories about Kirk and Terrell. You never really heard about Kirk working with Josh Doctson.
Like, I had this hamstring thing that was like a never-ending story,
Sure.
Yeah. Well, what else did you guys see offensively before we switch to the other side of the ball?
I think we have to address the elephant in the room. To me, was Samaje Perine.
Yeah.
And Jamal Grown. Go ahead, Jamal.
Oh yeah. You can go first.
No, I should say because I was thinking about the fact that they were actually committed to staying to the run. But then when you look at it, Samaje Perine, he just didn't. It's not that he didn't look comfortable. He just actually looked like he didn't know where the holes were, because he definitely was lost out there. But it wasn't like he wasn't running.
He ran
with
hard.
A lack of confidence. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't like he ran with a lack of confidence. He had some confidence. He just didn't know where the holes were, and that's just a problem that we've had for a few years with these running backs when it comes to ball carrier vision. The division is just not there sometimes, and for Samaje 3 games in is not looking very good. Some of the runs that he sprung, they were helped by the offensive linemen.
Sure.
Like combo blocks is what they call it. Combo blocks, individual blocks where they're turning the defenders a certain way so they can clear a lane for Samaje. So yes, Samaje is kind of a headache for me at this point. And it's like I already wanted Kelly. I wanted Kelly to start for the season. But at this point, it's like, now, do I want to give up on Samaje already for Mac Brown, or do I need to let Samaje grow and continue to develop? Because I'm getting impatient.
Well, I think getting impatient with a 3rd-round pick 3 games in is a bit, overzealous. I understand why, but
he's a starter.
Yeah, he's a starter just because of
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, circumstances. But I mean, at the moment,
I will say this in his defense. As opposed to some starters we've had here recently, the one thing that I saw from him that I liked, he didn't get hit in the backfield and just taken down a whole lot. He was always at least getting 1-2 yards on some bad runs, but then he had a couple that went for 5, 9, slightly bigger.
I mean, look. For me, it's about results. I'm no quarterback. I'm a running back expert.
Right.
Some of you guys out there supposedly, but I look at a guy who had 19 carries, 49 yards. And even my unexpert eyes saw what Jamal saw, which was, you can tell a bad running back immediately because he hesitates.
Sure.
Good running backs never hesitate, and Samaje doesn't do that. But I think Jamal is exactly right. It looks like I don't know if he was hitting the wrong hole, if he wasn't seeing the holes. He runs with decisiveness and confidence, but he wasn't achieving results. He was always getting hit. And so I'm frustrated with him. Mac Brown looked a lot better than Samaje,
Right.
but that was the end of the game, and when the defensive line was worn down, I don't know if that's exactly an apples to apples comparison necessarily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would say that maybe that's kind of a role you can carve with P. Ryan for a while at least, is use him, even if he's not getting yards, he can bruise up that, defensive front seven a little bit for
Grind
the
him
other
down.
backs who
He
might
just
be
gotta
able to
hold on
make
to
a
the
big
damn
play
ball.
later
And
on.
did I mention Mac Brown? I mean, he was 6 for 27 for
Yeah,
4.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, 11 long.
Yeah. Yeah, 11 long. Yeah. So I mean, that if there was a downer offensively, I think it was that. We'll have to hope. We'll preview the Chiefs, next time, but let's hope that Rob Kelly's back.
Yeah. I frankly would like them to figure out a way to get all four on the active roster. I think there's some role you could carve out for all of them if they used them right.
A lot of running backs.
Yeah, I know.
Sure. Well, before we close the book on the offense, let me just ask you this one question. Is this, I think we all predicted a relatively high-scoring game. So when you look back on this, I think the surprise was Oakland's offense. Does our offensive performance surprise you? Were you surprised by this?
Well,
is
considering
this
I
just makes
predicted
sense?
28 points when we scored 27 points, it didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
You see it coming.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I
And
predicted
actually,
somewhere
right,
in the
to
20s.
be perfectly honest, I mean, the 28 points was 4 touchdowns, and right as soon as we got off the air, I thought, you know what, it probably should have been 27 because it seemed like,
We would
3
stall out.
touchdowns, 2 field
Couple
goals.
field goals.
Well, like
Sure.
touchdowns and a couple field goals would have been more. But point is, I saw an improved offense just because history tells us that's what this version of the Redskins do. They get rolling. It's like, kicking that old jalopy, into gear.
Right.
You
Right.
get it
gets
running.
going down the hill and it picks up some speed and
That's the Redskins.
Engine fires up. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
beautiful. Let's talk about the other side of the ball then, which was equally as dominant for us. What happened with Derek Carr, guys?
Well,
he looked
he
deer in
sucked.
the headlights last night.
He sucked. I like Steve's analysis, which I would absolutely.
That's what you pay us for, people.
Yeah.
That's the kind of analysis you get on the Hog Style.
Well,
Derek Carr sucked.
Well,
It was clear from the very start of the game, right? It started on that very first offensive play, and it continued basically from there.
I think I would like to take a little credit because I don't ever claim to be a genius, but I said it on the last show. What you have to do is you play tight coverage, you disrupt the timing of his receivers, and that'll totally screw with Derek Carr's ability to make plays. And that's what the Redskins did. Collinsworth was identifying it right away. So I'm at least as smart as Chris Collinsworth. I don't know if that's a good thing.
It's not a high bar. Yeah, it's not a high bar.
It's something. We hold
Chris
on to what we can.
Collinsworth. Chris Collinsworth is psyched to be Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think he wakes up every day and goes, I am so lucky I'm me and not every other average wide
I think
receiver?
he waits to say that until he's staring at himself naked in a mirror.
Dear Lord, let's get another image into the listeners' minds immediately. Stat. Here's what I'd like to know. This offensive line of Oakland's is looked at as one of the best. And I don't think anybody would have predicted them looking so bad. What exactly occurred to make that happen? Because we saw back-to-back sacks, pressure all night. They could not get
What was
anything
it,
going
Steve,
in
do
the running
you
game.
have the numbers, I'm sure. 5 sacks on the night?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, four.
It was with it, yeah.
4 sacks.
Okay.
4 sacks.
Four for 22 lost yards.
Wow.
I'll tell you what I saw. I saw an interior defensive line getting pressure straight up the middle. They were shoving that interior offensive line, around. Matt Ioannidis and Jonathan Allen. I think this was Jonathan Allen's best game.
Yeah, I
as a
mean,
pro.
Yeah, I agree.
statistically, he might not have had the same number he had in the first game of tackles and stuff, but
Yeah, I didn't even care about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
most
he
dominating.
looked like he was making a difference in the interior defensive line, and so that's what I saw. And your edge guys are going to get there. I mean, Junior Gillette finally had a half a sack, but he almost got there a couple times. He generated some holding calls.
Yeah.
I thought Junior was getting into the groove a little bit more than he was, so that's good. Ryan Kerrigan, had the sack, and so there was a lot of pressure on Carr. But I'll tell you what,
I'll talk about Preston Smith.
yeah,
Oh,
Preston
yeah.
Smith. Yeah. That first interception on the first play of the game,
Nicholson, yeah.
Golly gee.
it's
That's all I can say.
it's like Carr just didn't even remember that there was a safety out there.
It was a low velocity wobbler he threw up there.
Well, and
Well,
if
it was
you
like-
go back and watch it, and I'm sure you guys saw it on Twitter a couple times like I did, Nicholson starts out breaking to the other side of the field,
He was watching his eyes.
Yeah.
He just watched the quarterback guys.
He just made a great play there, watching the quarterback and knowing exactly.
That's the kind of thing that Mr. Franchise Quarterback should have known. Go ahead, Jamal. I'm sorry.
I'm about to say no, it's good. The thing is, Derek Carr got fooled. And you basically just said it because Derek Carr got fooled thinking that Nicholson was coming up playing in the box, and instead he went over the top thinking that he was going to have Amari 1-on-1 and Nicholson. That's what you need in a safety, a free safety, is somebody who has range. And even though the pass it wasn't like a wobbler, but he just sailed it. It was just up there hanging. You need that guy.
Pass. His receiver could have caught it.
Yeah. He definitely gave him a chance. I say that because I don't know what Breland would have done, honestly. But he definitely
wasn't in too terrible position, for it. I think he also knew he had Nicholson back there too.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I wouldn't know because Breland was around. He was around the ball, but that's what I'm saying. Like in terms of just a free safety, you got to have that guy who has that range. And Nicholson has displayed it constantly already. I've talked about it in the preseason. He's looked good against Green Bay. That was his first action. He looked good against Green Bay, and then these past 2 weeks, he's definitely looked good as well. So when you have a free safety that can do that, it's definitely promising. And you've seen them lay the lumber on Michael Crabtree, a couple, I think once. But he was flying around the ball, and it was an encouraging sight. So.
And I'll tell you something else I noticed, that I hadn't focused as much as I should in the past 2 games on DJ Swearinger. And so I try to watch him a little bit more. And the All 22 as we record this has not come out yet. So, it'll be tomorrow. So I haven't watched any of that yet. DJ, I think I've not given DJ enough credit for what he does to set the defense up. He's truly, maybe even more so the middle linebacker, is the defensive captain back there. He's arranging the secondary. He's telling people what to do. High energy guy, but a very, very knowledgeable guy too. And I don't think I've really given him enough credit for that on the show, at least, because I just haven't focused on him before yesterday.
Nice. So who else stands out, guys? Other guys I feel like worth mentioning. Zach Brown.
Zach Brown, of course. Every week, Zach Brown stands out.
Yeah, and he made some comments before leading up to this game, I think, in response to some of the things that Oakland was saying, and he backed it up this week.
Yeah.
I think the entire secondary also just stood out to me. There were no blown coverages, no blown assignments. Nope. They all, and they had some great pass defenses. Breland had one in the end zone. I think it was Breland had one in the end zone.
He did.
Fuller had one. Fuller got the interception. I mean. I thought this was the secondary's best performance by far, and it wasn't just because of the pass rush.
Because they've played well every week so far.
But it wasn't just the pass rush. They made great plays, as individual players against wide receivers.
Yeah, and I was going to actually add on because a lot of people forget that a great secondary play. I shouldn't say a great secondary, but great secondary play complements the pass rush. If you can think about it, the Redskins were getting home with 4 rushers on a consistent basis like that, or they didn't necessarily get all the sacks with 4 rushers. I'd like to assume they did. I'm not sure. I have to go look. I don't think they blitzed anybody all game.
The first one was 4 because all 4 guys hit David Carr at the exact same time.
That one was just penetration. In the interior primarily.
Can you assign a quarter sack to people because they all deserve a quarter sack?
No, they don't. They won't do that.
They'll probably all get half. Really, if anything.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing. Like that's what I'm saying. Like a great secondary. If all you have to do is cover for 3 seconds, you could be a great cornerback in the NFL if you can cover for 3 seconds, and that's what majority of these people can do. If you can cover for 3 seconds, that pass rush, if you can get there with just 4 rushers, all it takes is 3 to 5 seconds to get there. Preferably 3, and they were basically doing that the whole night. And when you have a good pass rush and you have solid coverage, it's damn near impossible to move the ball, especially through the air, because they're going to be teeing off on you all night, especially if they get home with 4. And it was just surprising how they did it, especially against one of the best O-line groups in the NFL.
Yeah, I want to be sure we get the Raiders' offensive numbers out there because they're just so pathetic that it's fun to say them.
Yeah, that should only take 2 seconds, I would imagine.
There weren't a lot of them. Yeah. Derek Carr was 1931 for 118 yards passing, 4 sacks, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 152.9. Remember I said Kirk Cousins was at 150. Well, Derek Carr was at a little over 50. Beast Mode himself, who I told you guys we didn't have to worry about quite as much, was only 6 of 18 for 3.0 yards per carry. Cordero Patterson. I always say his name wrong. Is it Cordero? Anybody know?
I thought it was Cordero. Cordero. I don't even know now.
I thought it was Cordell. I don't know.
You confused them all, Steve.
Yeah, I'm about to say, because I had
Let's just say Patterson. Patterson.
C. Patterson.
Yeah, C. Patterson.
2 carries for 5 yards, and it goes down from there. Receiving wise, the Josh Norman postgame made a big point of saying this in fairly angry fashion.
Yeah.
Michael Crabtree, 1 catch for 7 yards. Amari Cooper, 1 catch for 6 yards. After apparently they talked a whole bunch of trash.
Well, they said they'd rack up 200 yards on him.
Yeah, which they racked up 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Jared Cook, the tight end, 4 catches for 43 yards. He was their leading receiver. So that's pathetic numbers for an offense that's supposed to be.
Oh, don't forget there was a couple drops there too. If you didn't.
Yeah.
That.
Well, okay. So I did some research. That's 128 yards, by the way, that we allowed this game.
Yes.
So I said that's a really good game. When's the last time we did that?
1992.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Steve, you would know that.
It was in the Redskins. Don't you guys read your email? It was in the Redskins post game package, man. I read it.
Oh, well, I looked it up before they sent out the
package. All you have to do is open your Hawkseye email. It was in there.
I did open the email, but I had posted it early this morning, too. So
okay, so
October
that's
1992. That's a long time.
That's an impressive stat, sure. But here's the question, guys, because I don't understand. Can you put this in context for the listeners? Why does Philly come into town, run up 30 points on us, do whatever the hell they want to us, and then we shut down Oakland so easily? How do you put a defensive performance that's been up and down like this year into perspective for people? What should we expect going forward?
Well, I can take that right quick because truth be told, Philly didn't do much against us. Like their big plays came through breakdowns, breakdowns up front, missed tackles, missed opportunities, and then when that happens, you can again. I just talked about it. You can only really cover you perfectly for like 3 seconds. After those 3 seconds pass, anything happens, you have to be on your P's and Q's because clearly, what happened in week 1, Carson Wentz took advantage of breakdowns in the secondary after missed opportunities by the people in the front 7 that should have had like 6 or 7 sacks against Philly. Instead, they only had 3. So they definitely yardage wise, they had a lot of yards through the air, but I mean, truth be told, like it should have been less than that. Shouldn't he had that 50-some yard touchdown to Aguilar?
Yeah, well,
I think it's a lot of factors too. Yeah.
Well, it's the Redskins played clean football first and foremost.
Yeah.
Number one, it's just football. It's sports, and people aren't perfect. Sometimes you have bad days, and sometimes you don't. But the Redskins played clean football. I always track missed tackles and drop passes and stuff. Right. I don't remember I didn't think to bring my Philly game notes sitting here in front of me, but there were a lot of missed tackles and we had a lot of drop balls that game. I counted 1 missed tackle and 1 drop, which was Doxson. 1 missed tackle, and that was it. And we already talked about the secondary. They didn't really have any coverage breakdowns at all. And so when you play clean football, it makes the game a whole lot easier because there's talent on this team. I think if you can give them a knock on the game this time, it was all penalties. It was the 2 turnovers and all the penalties. I counted 13 penalties. I didn't look the stat up. That's just what I counted. I think it was 13.
Yeah, I think 8 on defense too. I remember them saying that in the broadcast.
And then you have the P. Ryan fumble on the 10-yard line, and you had the Crowder fumble, which accounted for instantly all of Oakland's offense.
Right.
It really should have been a shutout, truth be told.
Yeah, definitely
it really could have been. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you play clean football, it at least more clean, it makes the game a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, Jamal. I mean, I think you're right. I don't think Philly did anything special, and I don't think their talent level is anything special.
No.
They just played better than we did.
I mean, there's one factor that I don't remember who pointed this out. It was Tom Lavero or some DJ on Twitter was pointing to this. How Carson Wentz is a slightly different quarterback in that he's a lot harder to bring down, and so that plays into it a lot. You know,
I can see that.
If you look at Carr, as soon as we got to him, he went down. You know, he never evaded a single sack. Wentz evaded several.
He didn't have a lot of opportunity.
I'm about to say because it's hard to evade when the pocket's collapsing on you.
It was a jailbreak. Some of those plays.
Some guys who are a little bigger can do it a little better. You know, we've seen Ben Roethlisberger make a career out of it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I mean, Roethlisberger is like a ballet dancer, considering he's 6'6". You know, he's out there wearing a tutu. You know,
he's also 250 pounds, which makes him extra hard to bring down.
But he's mobile. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with Jamal on it, and that when there's a jailbreak along the defensive line, Michael Vick wouldn't have gotten away from some of those.
Oh yeah, no. I think the line played out of their minds. I don't know what Tomasula or Greg Minuski said to these guys, but they were
put into their Gatorade.
Yeah.
But they were on. Yeah, I agree. Well, what else stood out? We got to do game balls, I guess. But what else stood out to you guys before we let folks go?
I mean, our punt return game, aside from the fumble, Crowder finally got a halfway decent return. He hadn't had one, the entire season so far. He had an 18-yard. I think it was 18 yards.
Yeah, it was close to that.
Right before Dustin Hopkins missed the field goal. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
See, that was what I was going to bring up as a discussion point for you guys. Is anybody frustrated with Dustin Hopkins? I'm not, because I give any kicker a 50-50 shot at kicks over 50 yards. So that's just me. But what do you guys think?
You got one job. You got one job, and Dustin Hopkins hadn't seen the field all game. All you got to do is kick your first field goal and make it. It's a 51-yarder. There was no wild winds. There was nothing absurd that was going to get in your way of making a 51-yard field goal, and you missed it. And that it's annoying now. It's not even. I gave him chances last year. I was like, man, this is a slump because 2015 he was doing good. You don't come out here in your first field goal attempt and you miss it. Like, that's just annoying because of the fact that, like, last night they still had opportunities, like, technically, score-wise. They still had opportunities to come back in the game. No matter how the flow of the game was going, they still had opportunities. And you didn't put them away when you had your opportunity as a kicker. All you had to do is kick that field goal and make it. And I'm sorry, I don't give him a pass for missing a 51-yard field goal. There's kickers out here who are perfect and make 90+% of their 50-yard field goals. I mean, need I point to the dude in Baltimore? Like, come on, man. It's annoying. I
kind of loved that. I didn't want to jump in there because I loved your fire on that, Jamal.
It was a rant, a kicking rant.
Yeah,
it was a rant. Well, I'm sorry, man. He really did annoy me.
I loved it.
I brought it up.
Well, I kind of agree. I see what you're saying, Steve, but I more or less agree with Jamal just in the context of he's been a little up and down in recent history. Really would have been nice to see some decisive kicking, if that is such a thing, if that's even a term that people use.
Decisive kicking.
Would have been nice. Decisive kicking.
He kicked decisive. He just missed it.
Yeah.
He just missed it decisive. You're right. But you know what I mean.
I really don't know what you mean, actually, but
Yeah, I think I know what you
I like
mean.
somebody to define what a decisive kick is. That's all.
One that scores points. When you first trot out of it's 51 yards, I agree. That's a doable distance. I also understand that it's not necessarily a given, but he's been up and down in general, and I think that's why a miss in that context is
one thing that I'm noticing with his kicks. There's a lot of side to side curving and spinning on his kicks.
And that's a part I can't speak to that because I don't even.
Well, I'm just when you watch them, they go like all the way left and right and. You never quite know, like, just kick it so it angles down the middle again, like you did your rookie year.
Just kick it straight, dude.
Yeah.
Kick it off.
Jay seems to have more patience with kickers than Mike Shanahan did.
Yeah.
Mike Shanahan was, like, trading him in every other day, it seemed like.
Now, to be fair, I would rather you have more patience with kickers than do the Mike Shanahan thing where you're rotating 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
I can't stand, that notion of, this guy missed one, let's get a new one.
I agree, and I definitely don't. I wouldn't want to, put him in a trash can just yet. But at this point, like, I'm completely over him. If he comes out there, I'm just gonna change the channel and come back in like 5 seconds to see if we got 3 points on the board. So
just close your eyes and hope for the best.
And I'm a hope it's not 7 the other way either, because if it is, then I'm gonna make my march down to Ashburn and demand he gets fired. I don't even care if it's his fault or not. He's getting fired.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, anything else, people? We got to give game balls out too.
Yeah,
so unless you guys have anything else, let's do game balls. All right. What are we doing? Offense and defense?
I went last time, so I'll go first this time.
All right.
I'm going to give my offensive game ball to Chris Thompson. Unbelievable. 188 yards. Total offense.
Mm-hmm.
His play was off the charts. So I think Chris Thompson definitely gets the offensive game ball from me. Certainly a lot of other performances. Honorable mention to Kirk Cousins. Honorable mention to Josh Doctson for making a great play. On defense, it's a little harder just because there were so many good plays and good players. And I'd like to give the game ball to the entire secondary. Can I do that? Can I give the game ball to the secondary?
You're gonna have to cut it into a lot of little pieces. But
okay, well, all right. Well, I'll it's all right. I'll narrow
the
it down.
stitches go to the corners.
I love it.
No, it's all right. I tell you what, I'm going to give a game ball. I'm going to give a defensive game ball to Bashad Breeland.
Whoa.
It's a little off the beaten path, but this is a cumulative award, okay? Because we were all down on Bashad Breeland, last season and out the off season. He's had 3 good games. He made his share of stops or his share of pass breakups this week. And so I think in recognition for his increased performance thus far in the season, I give Bashad Breeland a game ball. There are lots of other guys. Jonathan Allen gets an honorable mention.
Right.
Zach Brown gets an honorable mention. Josh Norman gets an honorable mention. For shutting down those receivers. But I'm going to give it to Breeland just out of recognition for his play.
Sure. I'm with it. I'm with you, Steve. I'll go next if you guys want. I'm not even going to try to get creative with it. I'm just giving it to Chris Thompson, too, on the offensive side of the ball. How could you not? I like what he's done in general this year, and this game was no-brainer. Loved it. Defensive, this one's a little tougher, I guess, just because you saw so many things you wanted to see. You saw Gillette doing some things. We mentioned Ioannidis.
Sure.
You mentioned Breeland. Kerrigan. I'm going to give it to Brown just because I like, in the spirit of inclusiveness and sharing the love, I'm going to give him a game ball.
I think that gives Brown a game ball every week so far, from one of us at least.
I think so.
Really? I thought you guys hadn't done it. I thought I was doing something newer.
No, I'm pretty sure we've all done it at least once.
So he has a collection of them at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Just like Thompson.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and go next. I'll give my offensive game ball. Well, I'll give my game ball to Chris Thompson. Everybody said it, and then he's a difference maker. Mm-hmm. When you're down, when you're in the midst of giving the ball back to the Oakland Raiders on a 3rd and 19, you give the ball to Chris Thompson, and he takes it 73 yards.
Yeah.
That's on one drive. A drive before when they scored their first touchdown. In response, he carries the ball for I think 12 yards or something like that for an average of 5 yards a carry or something like that. 15 yards for 5 yards to carry on 3 carries. He contributes to a drive that puts up a field goal again. So it's like, they go to him when they really need him, and he delivers. He hasn't failed yet. So he just proves to be a difference maker. He did it once again. Chris Thompson. Honorable mention is Josh Doctson for the obvious reasons. One catch, but still a big catch for him and for the team. Defensively, I'll give it to Preston Smith. And this one is because of the fact that I don't necessarily give Preston Smith enough credit. I do recognize that he's been playing good these first 3 weeks, but I don't give him enough credit because of the simple fact that the past 2 years he's disappeared in spurts and consistently disappeared. And the first 3 weeks he's been consistent so far. He's shown up. I think he got a sack in every single game, and that's something that's very positive for him. So I'll give him the credit. I'll give him credit for 3 games. He has to keep it going, but he has to remain consistent. He doesn't have to have a sack every week, but that'll be nice. Just make sure you're still there making some type of play every single week. So I'll give my game ball to Chris.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That is a good one. All right. I don't want to say Chris Thompson since he's gotten 3. So
do it. Peer pressure. Just make it unanimous for all the OCD people who listen.
make sure. Look, he had a great game. You guys mentioned Doxson probably deserved one, but I'm gonna really. I can't go just say O-line, can I? And give them a game.
No,
ball.
you didn't let me do secondary, so you got to pick.
Okay, so I can't do that. Let's go with Kirk Cousins. This was probably he struggled the first 2 weeks, but 3 touchdowns, 350 plus yards.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is, we've always said he has a window. I think this is the window opening for Kirk for this year, and hopefully it doesn't close for a long, long time. But this was a big game for him. He's got a lot going on in his personal life. With son on the way this week, hopefully.
By the way, we mentioned that, and I heard him talk about that on somewhere today. His wife is overdue. She has not had the baby, but she is overdue to deliver.
Yeah.
So that's not
gotcha.
So that I'm going to give a game ball to him, and on the defensive side, I'm going to give it to DJ Swearinger. And
there you go.
Sweet.
You might be thinking, well, he didn't have a pick or anything. No, I'm giving to him for something weird. After the game, in his post-game interviews, he was wearing a Sean Taylor jersey and a cowboy hat with like the Redskins logo emblazoned down the side. And
that was more of like a sombrero, I think. Than a cowboy.
Yeah. It was like some giant plastic sombrero Redskins thing.
And that is winning off the field.
So you know what? He's been leading
and white
the defense
pants with white shoes on top of that.
Yeah. He's been leading the defense and kicking ass in general. So I'm gonna give him, a game ball just for the style.
Awesome. Well, there you go. We'll give Alex the final word on that one. Before we let people go, Steve, hit me with the injuries this week. What's going on, man?
Okay, the big injury was Tyron Secchi. He has a core muscle injury. He's, according to Jay Gruden's presser on Monday afternoon, he said he's going to see a specialist in Philadelphia about it. There is, according to Jay Gruden, there's a chance he could be out for a little while. So that is the big one. So you got to see probably T.J. Clemens, maybe be active in place of Secchi if Secchi can't go. Samaje Perine.
He was in a couple big plays, by the way. People have overlooked that.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. Samaje Perine had a hand contusion. That's why he was out of the game there at the end. And then Jay also said Reed and Kelly are day-to-day. And so we'll know more later in the week on those. And that's injuries.
Hey,
there we go.
We got a name for the show since Steve was the lone wolf last week.
The lone wolf? Is that
man, you were the only one that got the score. Everybody else, I thought it was only you that got the
alternate. You know what I think we need to do is we need to alternate the show title. Blank is always right. Every week that's going to be the title.
Steve was always right, man. He got the one this week. He improved us wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I think you earned yourself a show title, man.
No, there we go. I'm humble. You all know I'm very, very humble and not full of myself. I don't need that.
Alex is laughing. All right, well, hey, I supported whatever. We all deserve our chance in the sun. Anyways, that'll do it for the show this week. We will see you guys soon for the Kansas City Chiefs preview. So we'll be back then.
Which is like tomorrow, isn't it?